Come, please sit. The fire is warm, and I have a tale to tell you. This is one you won't hear from any teacher or any book. A story passed down by men such as myself throughout history. This is the story of history, and one that is important that men remember. Long ago, in the time before time, the gods were wild. Creatures of habit and instinct, great and terrible in equal regard. They terrorized humanity at one time, and at others they uplifted individuals to strike out against great evils. Mortals cowered before and praised them in equal measure. All was chaos as each god rose to rule their own nations and war with one another. In those days, the divine walked among the people, and the people did bow in reverence, lest they be slain. So it was for many years, until a cold wind began to blow. From the east it rolled, filling all within the nations of the gods with discontent and worry. A great war erupted, many small conflicts spilling over into a calamitous war, the likes of which the world has never known, nor has known since. Lands were raised and fell. The oceans boiled under the divine might of warring gods. Underneath burning skies, men met in battle, steel and arrow sowing the fields in blood. The world heaved, teetering on the edge of demise. And then, in the world's darkest hour, when all seemed irreversibly lost, that which the cold wind heralded arrived. Clad in silver armor and bearing a great spear, a woman appeared from the east. She first arrived in a small mountainside town, and there she spoke to the men of great and wondrous things, of a balance of light and shadow, of a grandness to light up the skies, of a heavenly dance above the clouds. Though mortals of the time had never experienced such a wonder, they lived in the oppressive age of gods, where all of nature bent to their capricious whims, and so they bade her to speak. Speak she did, telling her tales as she walked ever westward. Soon she began to amass followers, pilgrims, and worshippers. She spoke of peace and prosperity, concepts that were long forgotten in the lands of the gods, and those eager for a better life than living in fear every day at the unpredictable beings that ruled them, and those weary of war joined the throng. So it was that the gods found her, and one god challenged this strange woman to battle. When her followers took up arms, she merely bade them to sit and to do nothing but observe carefully, so as to better speak of what they saw. The woman met the god and his army on the field alone, in her silver armor and bearing her great spear. Those who witnessed the battle spoke in hushed whispers across the lands, of power no mortal should possess, of a god's head left upon a pike, and of a field sown with the blood of the unworthy. News spread like wildfire, and those who heard it came together, the woman continuing her journey west. All the gods who dared to stand in her path were slain, or driven to flee the fields of battle. The mortals that stood against her were unworthy of the woman's mercy, and perished. Some survived by forsaking allegiance to their gods and joining the cause of the mysterious woman. They followed her for a time, but all would eventually leave the woman's side to spread her word. Even though very few understood the significance of the 3 words spoken, they repeated it with all of their hearts. It was not until the woman reached the western edge of the land that they became true. You've probably imagined all of this occurring with a night and a day, have you not? Battles taking place atop sun-baked fields, and the story of this mysterious silver-clad woman told beneath brilliant stars. If so, then you have been mistaken. For until the woman reached her destination, the sky was as it had always been. A gray expanse, dark and cold, with only clouds and rain to give it flavor. But when the silver-clad woman arrived and raised her spear to the sky, those three simple words became as law. And thus the day comes. All became fire and blinding light. The grayness of the heavens was shattered and forever banished, as something began to ascend over the eastern edge of the lands. Colors and heat and endless majesty rose beyond the mountains where the Silver Woman had come. For she was but a herald of greater change to come, having journeyed across the land to prepare all that would listen for their second arrival. A woman, clad in brightest gold and bearing a bronze hammer the size of a man, set foot upon the land where her sister had arrived. And thus the great sisters found us. Mortals and gods alike raced across the land to greet the newly come sun, or to flee from her glory. Some even dared to raise up arms against her majesty, to foolishly war for the heavens' coming. Those who had seen the western moon, who had greeted the risen sun, revolted against their masters and shook off their shackles. Mortals and gods alike rallied to the side of the celestial sisters, and beneath their banners they tamed the world. The risen sun marched west, the westward moon strode east. Where they met, and blessed the world with the first eclipse, the capital to our great land was founded. And so it has been for many years. The risen sun and westward moon created a heavenly city, within which the gods dwell and tend to the world, from atop the great Mount Orus. Above them all sits the solar and lunar thrones, and for a time they sat empty. For the celestial sisters decreed, no more would mortals be left to fend for themselves. And so they descended from the heavens, leaving the silver spear Octanus and the bronze hammer Polaris upon their thrones as they joined the mortals. For many years they lived among us, ruling our united nation through centuries of peace, shepherding us through conflict and strife. But it finally came to pass that they returned to their thrones among the gods atop Mount Orus. In their wake, they left their only daughter, a goddess in her own right, to rule and guide us as they once had. She sits upon the throne even to this day. Under her divine wisdom, harmony and peace have flourished across the lands. In return for all they have done, we offer them prayer and sacrifice, so they may know our eternal gratitude. So it was, and so it shall ever be.